everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my June wrap-up. Now June isn't over when I'm filming this, so I may have another book that I end up finishing towards the end of June, especially now where I'm just pounding through these books super quickly. But I really wanted to get done now so that, it'll be up for the end of June, and then any book I actually finish at the very end can, be added in or put in my July wrap-up. So these aren't in any particular order because I have physical books that I've read, but I also have, ebooks that I read as well. Most of my ebooks are just ebooks for college for my grad class, but I do count them because I had to sit down and I had to read them, so I count them in my wrap-up. Now, the latest book I finished was today, and it's Elevation by Stephen King. This was a really cute short read, I don't read many Stephen King books, but I have watched some of the movies that are based on his books. And this wasn't as scary as I thought it would be, but it is a very interesting concept. This character named Scott Carey lives in this town where everyone knows everything and information just goes really quickly from one person to the next. And he has this problem where he continues to lose weight. And you would think that's great, but not really, because he eats the same amount, if not more. He looks the same. Nothing's really changed except that he continues to lose weight. And he could have weights in his hand and he'd still be the same weight, So if I was 200 pounds and then I took 20-pound weights in each hand, it'd add 40 pounds. But no, for him, if he's 200 pounds, even with the weights, he's 200 pounds. So it's this weird thing that he's trying to figure out, but then somehow he decides, he brings people together with this issue, and he makes friends with his neighbors and helps them out. And it's just a nice short read. And I thought it was really cute. And I think I gave it maybe 3 stars, only because when I think Stephen King, I think horror, not really just cute, weird thing. But I thought it was very interesting, and it was a really cute read, and I would definitely recommend it if you're a Stephen King fan. The next book I finished was The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. These are short novellas that Selena Sardouthian is in, before she's, I don't want to ruin the story, but Selena Sardouthian are in these stories. And it's just, her background and how she gets to the prison where Throne of Glass is started. So, it's the nice background. And you see some of the characters that are in the series, and how she meets them. And I thought it was really fun, to see the background. And I powered through this, I read this in maybe a day and a quarter, and I say quarter, not half, because I started it at night the day before. But I did listen to the audiobook as I read, so that tends to go quicker because I read it in 2.10 speed. But I thought it was really cool to see the background, and I believe I give it 5 stars. So you should definitely check it out if you're a fan of the series. My next book for my June wrap-up was Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. This one has a lot of more Kale and other characters in the story, not so much Selena, but I really love to see his point of view and his journey and how he grows as a character. And I'm a huge fan of Kale. I love him. And I loved him in the first one, and I loved him in the second, and I thought he was a great character, and it's nice to see his point of view be more forward in this book. This one took me a long time to finish, mostly because I think I started before the quarantine, and I was listening to audiobooks only when I was driving to work and driving home. So once quarantine ended, I stopped audiobooks, but then I was I really want to finish the series. I'm so close. I'm just gonna, listen to the audiobook. So that's what I did, and I'm really glad I got to finish this book because it was so good and I was so into it, and I was happy about that. Now, because I finished Tower of Dawn, I had to continue to Kingdom of Ash. And I also finished Kingdom of Ash in 2 days. Man, this was amazing. There was tension, there was love, there was, character development and character growth, there was revenge and like some death, and the ending was so perfect. It just tied it up into a sweet little bow. I love this book. I couldn't put it down. I did listen to the audiobook at the same time, but I was so invested. I even think I read a chunk of it without the audiobook because my phone was occupied. But like, it was so amazing. And I almost want to go back and reread the whole series because I started the series like 2 years ago. And now I have this one. And at first I thought I was going to be like, going one book after the other is just so difficult. At least people have time to wait and process it. I'm just going one after the other. But this one was great. It was so good. And all the others are good too. And I can't wait to read Sarah J. Maas's other series, Court of Thorn and Roses. And if you don't know, the fourth one comes out in January 26th, I think, 2021. I could be wrong, but I think it's January 26th, 2021. It was on Instagram, and I was like, I need to read all the ones in this series before January 26th so I can have it ready when it comes out. Because I don't want to be like this where I have like an entire series to read. I want to process and give it time. And I've heard such great things of Court of Thorn and Roses. Like all my coworkers have read it, and they're just so I'm sure they're excited for the fourth one. They're like, finally. But I can't wait. I love her world building. I love how detailed she is. I can see it in my head when I'm reading it. Sarah J. Maas is top-notch author right here, and this one was no different. I definitely recommend this series if you haven't read it. On to another top-notch author is B.E. Schwab's Gathering of Shadows. It is the sequel to A Darker Shade of Magic, and then the third one is A Conjuring of Light. The first one I was very confused in certain points. It's possible because I just listened to the audiobook. I didn't have the book in front of me, and it was in British accent. But I really enjoyed it. I love this one. The first one was a bit confusing, but this one was great. It was slightly slow starting, but it got really good in the middle, and the ending was so powerful and so you were just sitting there going, no, kind of feeling. And you have to immediately read the third one. You can't wait. It ends in where it feels like the next one immediately would start where this one ended. Now, I have to wait because I like to listen to them with audiobooks, and the audiobook is on hold in the library, but I cannot wait for it to come out. I read this in a day and a half. It was so quick. There wasn't a moment of stopping. Something was always happening, and it was just wonderful. This takes place 4 months after the first one, and it's just and I love Kale, and I love, what's her name, Delilah. I love them, and I hope they get together. It's just so good, and I think you'll really enjoy it if you haven't picked it up. I would say this from what I've read so far. I've read one of her other series, the one about a song and monsters. A Dark Duet, I think, is the sequel. But yeah, I read that series, and I thought it was really good, but I think it was more young, and this one is definitely more YA, I feel. But her writing's so great. She just, she creates a picture in mind. But when I was reading this, I got a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender vibes, which I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix, and I rewatched the whole thing, and I definitely got a lot of vibes from this book, which I'm totally fine with because I love it. And we get inspiration from things we watch and things that are happening. So I definitely love this book, and I cannot wait to read the finale of it. Now, the other books I've read this month are all books for grad school. Did I like them? Not particularly. They're grad school books, but I'm sure they're well renowned. The first one was The Old Man in the Sea by, I think, Ernest Hemingway is his name. Yes, The Old Man in the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. I have it on my Goodreads. I gave it a 2-star. It's about a man that hasn't been catching fish, so goes out to sea to catch fish. And there's supposedly a lot of Christian allegory and metaphors, and it's supposed to be amazing. Ernest Hemingway is a great author of the times. Did I like it? No, but I hate fishing and I think it's boring. So I didn't particularly like it. I mean, I went through it quickly, but I was doing laundry when I was reading it. So I was just like sitting there waiting for my laundry to finish. And so I went through it really quickly, but did I like it? Not really. I mean, it was well written, I think, but I just don't like fishing. The next one was Black Water by Joyce Carol Oates. I gave that a 1 star. It's technically like a true story, but it's based off of a true story about, I think, like in this book, it's you have the senator, and then you have Callie, who someone that admires him and is infatuated with him, and she somehow gets to meet him and then like hang out. But then something happens where they get to a car accident and like he just leaves her there, like he manages to get out, like the car goes into the ocean and he just leaves her there. And it's based on something that actually happened, like I think a former president or something, or someone in government did that, and like his career was over, and where he just got into a car accident and like managed to get out of the water, out of the car, and instead of calling 911 immediately, he went to a payphone and like called his person who was like supposed to help him cover this up or something. But she could have survived if she like called 911 immediately, and it kind of ruined his career, because like you just left a girl to die. So it's based off of that. When I was reading it, I was hoping for something to be different, but it wasn't. And it was an okay book. I had to like read it for school, and we had to talk about like, what if you did know the history, how would that affect you or change your perspective on this book while you were reading it. And I was like, I didn't know the history, and it made it more tense, and like I thought there would be a change, but there wasn't. Then I read Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rees. This is like if you read Jane Eyre, there's a woman in the attic that's crazy and is like married to Mr. Rochester. This is the background story on that woman. They give her a name, they give her like a childhood and how she became crazy. And I thought it was really interesting. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 2 stars. I enjoyed it. It was okay. I knew Jane Eyre. I read the book already. I watched the movie multiple times in different versions. It was fine, but it wasn't like amazing. Like I wouldn't read it again. It's more of a book that you would read for school and analyze. And then I read The Awakening by Kate Chopin. So sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It was fine too. It's about a woman who wants more than what she has, because she lives in a time where women are meant to stay home and, take care of children and cook. And she wants more than that. And so it's about her growth and her desire and her attempt to get more than that, even though she's married and has like 2 children, so it was an okay read. I think I gave it 2 stars. The next one is that I have to read, and the last one I have to read is Home by Toni Morrison. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll probably put that in my July wrap up the next month. Hi everyone. So yesterday, I filmed my June wrap-up, but I just finished The Institute by Stephen King today, and I really wanted to add it into my June wrap-up video because it's only June 26th, and there's still a few days left. So, The Institute by Stephen King. I finished this in less than 24 hours. It was great. So, the story is about a kid named Luke Ellis, and everything I'm telling you is in the inside flap. So like none of it is going to be spoiler. Like if you read the inside flap, focus that a bit. If you read the inside flap, it's all on there. Anyway, it's about a kid named Luke Ellis who lives in Minneapolis, I believe. Yes. And one night intruders come into his house, kill his parents, and kidnap Luke. And he wakes up in a room that looks just like his room, but not, there's like no window, and obviously it's not his room. And he finds out that there's kids in this place called the Institute who have telekinetic powers and telepathy. And all the kids there have this gift. And they start out in the front half and then move on to the back half. And there's this, the boss, I guess, in the Institute named Mrs. Sigsby. And they're her and her staff are ruthless. Like if you follow along and do what they say, you get tokens, which allow you to buy snacks and cigarettes. Like they're giving cigarettes to kids and alcohol to kids. I guess to keep them more docile, or like, because they're so sad about being kidnapped. They go to that, but then they crave it, so they behave easier to get tokens so they can have it. But so you get tokens if you behave, and you get punished if you don't. And here in this institute, they this is what they say. Like they ruthlessly, in the most sinister of institutions, Director Mrs. Sigsbee and her staff are ruthlessly dedicated to extracting from these children the force of their extra normal gifts. So, it's pretty, brutal what they do, and very cruel. And the longer Luke stays here, the more he realizes he has to escape, but like no one's ever escaped from the Institute. And you kind of go through his journey about him in the Institute and what happens, and what they do to him and all the children he meets. But it's very interesting because like the book doesn't start with like Luke, it starts with another character named Tim, and like Stephen King combines these two storylines together, and I just thought it was great. There was a lot of mystery. The whole time I'm thinking, what are they doing in this institute? Like, I don't understand. Like, okay, they're telepathic, like, but what are they doing? Like, what's their purpose? And you learn about like how cruel humans can be to children, and it's just, and the kids had to grow up so fast, and it was just so great and so detailed. But I spent the whole time in like mystery and suspense because I had no idea what was going on. And yeah, it was great, and it was such a quick read. I finished this in, like I said, in less than 24 hours, and it's like 557 pages. So it was amazing, and I really enjoyed it, and I totally encourage you to read this. It was wonderful, and it wasn't like scary or anything. It was more suspenseful, and like, and it makes you think, like, can this really happen? Are there really like institutes out there that do this? Who knows? But I thought it was amazing, and yeah, I definitely gave it 5 stars. I thought it was great, and I encourage you to pick it up if you haven't. Okay, back to the other video. Bye. So I hope you like this video. I hope you want to pick up some of these books. I thought they were really great, and I definitely enjoyed living in the fantasy worlds that these created, and I cannot wait to read more V.E. Schwab and Sarah J. Maas. And if you liked any of the books I had to read for school, I am sorry I didn't like them, but I just didn't. They're just not my type of book. I prefer fantasy, and like YA fantasy is my thing, or adult fantasy too. So if you liked my video, please leave a comment down below, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye.